guys, so they still don't have vetoes done. It took a while because the main guy had to restart his computer, so I guess he might have been the one lagging, and then to remember which order of things they were doing. So finally we had Stats and MacSed actually do the vetoes, and the first map is going to be Echo. Echo. So, now I actually heard me getting into the lobby, so it should be happening soon. There it is. And I'll get into the game. Stats versus MacSed. I won't even, I'll just take away Crush Crazy and then that'll work out beautifully. The Stats actually has an account with his name on it. What a baller. What a fearless ladder baller. Well, I bought what I was hoping would be dissolvable vitamin C tablets that would make my water taste good, and boy was I wrong. Although I guess any candy will dissolve if you try hard enough. Now they taste really good. Oh, God. Oh, but as it is the winter season and I've been traveling, I was thinking about my health and I was like, vitamins are good. Vitamins are decent, so I figured it'd be worthwhile getting. I actually have maxed it in the proper position. Let's just move them over a little bit. It is another PvP on Echo. On the bottom right as the... Son of a bitch. Son of a nation, Darren. On the bottom right as the blue Protoss, he is Stats. And apparently MacSed really likes Stats. Wait a minute. No, it's the yellow Protoss. Whoa, what just happened in my mind, guys? Like, I just flipped the fuck out. In the bottom right as the yellow Protoss, it is MacSed. Holy crap, guys, I could have sworn that was blue. Like, I'm not even that tired, but I just had, like, a freak-out moment. Oh, when everything was right in the first place. In the top left as the blue Protoss, this time it is Stats. Oh, and he's on the Galaxy, which I think is what Innovation's team is now, too. Oh, his clan, rather, not his team, right? But, oh, man, what is wrong with me? Must have been those vitamins I just ate. It's actually weed. Oh, my God. No. Well, we saw MacSed not exactly destroyed by Rush Crazy, just didn't do that well versus the guy, so going up against Stats has got to be more difficult. I'm still seeing that little bit of lag. The guy that restarted his computer, excuse me, literally said, like, I had a little bit of lag, I need to restart my computer, and it shouldn't have been from me if that was the case. Everyone else would have been like, oh yeah, I felt it too. But just in case, I'm going to reduce the bit rate. See if that helps at all. As it was a little high in the first place. Oh, it doesn't seem to help that much. In fact, it made it worse. Good God. That might just be the way things are tonight. Dear Lord. Well, yeah, like I was saying, Max just didn't look that powerful, and apparently he really is a big fan of Stats, which, I mean, might be fine, like, doesn't even matter, but it also might be a little bit of, like, when you face your heroes in StarCraft, I think you automatically have a little bit of nerves, even if you're like the super top tier professional. Like, I feel if you're beyond when he first played Innovation was probably like, oh my God, like I played Innovation. Of course, that would have been a long time ago, but the point is it would have happened. So I don't know if this is the first time they're playing together. It might just be, or he just finally actually feels confident talking to the guy. That looks like a proxy. It was a proxy, and poor MacSed is just, oh God, he denied. Probe goes down, Pylon goes down. He was trying to 4-gate, it looks like, and now he just doesn't even know what to do. A little, like, annoyed face right there. I love it. Poor MacSed. So Stats obviously knew something was happening, and I mean, it wasn't even that hard to tell. So the Chinese players, unfortunately, as a group, have gotten kind of the tag of being cheesy. Now, we didn't see much cheese at all last time. Chinese versus Chinese player, so like who can explain that? But I would say that a lot of the times, you know, they do throw out a lot more cheeses. That I don't know the reason. It actually has something to do probably with just the fact that the Chinese have always had a little bit of their own meta going on, of their own play styles, as well as just I think there is still a little bit of they just might think they're not as good as the Korean players they're facing, and there's a lot of really good Korean players in this tournament, so that might make the most sense. But as his 4-gate was denied, he's kind of left with a very lame-looking 3-gate, so he tries to expand and get a robo, which is like everything you would need, right? But he just can't get those things later and try and do something on the front lines, because nothing's going to work, basically. He can't stop stats from macroing, nor can he really catch up too much. So he's just automatically at a loss. Rifkin is sleeping because it's super early in the morning. It'd be like 5 a.m. No, wait. Even before that. It'd be really a bad time in the morning to wake up. So, tradesies, so I don't have to lug my stuff over to a PC bong and pay $10 tonight. So you'll be casting the Corsair Cup in about 7 hours, something like that. The Blink is on the way for stats. Gotta imagine, oh no, actually it's gonna be Resident Glaive. So we saw one Blink game from MacSed and one Resident Glaive's game from MacSed. Both didn't go in his favor. Doesn't necessarily blame the Twilight Council for that, but point is, I don't think he actually has. I don't look at MacSed and think like, well, thank God he's going for this build, because otherwise it would have just been. Ugh. He's actually gonna change over to Blink, by the way, so I don't even know what's going through MacSed's mind right now. But it is going to be drastically behind. That is just the nature of how things opened up here. Stalker's going to come into the front. There are quite a few of them. That's enough force fields, as well as enough, well, what would have been Photon Overcharge had most people been in position, but she's all the way in the main. Just doesn't even look like she's moved. But you just have enough energy. Third base is already on the way for stats, and he's just trying to get leaps and bounds ahead of MacSed, because he totally can. He's in total control of this game after finding what should have been a proxy. Just failed. And what's so bad about that proxy, by the way, sometimes you see like someone intentionally, you know, intend to build something proxy, but their build back at home doesn't necessarily just distract it, or depend on it, is a better way. But what MacSed tried to do was a 4-gate. You know, you put the 4th gateway down as a proxy, so you have those fast warp ins. So, and getting a 4-gate, you obviously have to get 3 gates first, and 3 gates is not usually how you expand in PvP. It's usually a 2-gate. So it wasn't like, oh, I'll just cancel my idea for a proxy and go back to a Nexus. He had already spent the minerals delaying his Nexus, and it just was really bad stuff. At stats, I mean, there's a chance that he gets a little bit overconfident here. I mean, he did take a 3rd base after all, thinking that he'll be able to get away with it, which he probably can. But I'm just thinking, like, if MacSed had tried to do an all-in instead of take his own 3rd base, maybe he would have been a little bit surprised and caught off guard. But as a 3rd base it is, and now MacSed just has to hope for the, you know, passage of time, basically. Like, he's gonna hope that stats doesn't push into him with a much bigger army, which he doesn't even have yet. And he has to also hope that, in 5-6 minutes, his army is maxed out to take what will start off as a much more even fight. Because once you're both maxed out, even if they have like one more upgrade or a much bigger bank, which is generally what happens when they have their early lead and the game goes on for a long time, you at least can start off the battle right, as opposed to if it's the mid-game after your failed proxy and you're down like 20 army supply. MacSed is pushing forward. He actually cancels the Nexus, but I really like that he did. I did notice that he got a lot more gateways, but he did that last game too, and then ended up trying to go for the Nexus anyway. I was a little uncertain if he was going to cancel it, but he stopped building probes at 44, and Stats might have been tricked, but Stats had already enough production himself and enough units himself that defensively he should be absolutely fine. The Adepts transfer forward a little bit too far, which is a little bit of a mistake, and the Stalkers take on the Immortals, and a lot of them lose their lives for it, but Stats still has 3 Immortals, and a lot of Adepts are coring all the Blink Stalkers. His Warp is going to come in and start microing too, and he absolutely slaughters MacSed's push. And that's going to be game number 1. GG. Oh, well, I did guess like a 2-0 for stats, as I've guessed for most of the Koreans before in the other groups. It just seems to be that, first of all, this has always been a problem for the Chinese scene, is that they do seem to be not just a different kind of scene, like a different meta going on, they also seem to be behind on the meta too. Like, they got the news a little bit later, which usually means they're not quite set up to be in, like, you know, top tier tournaments. It's not like a dig, it's not like I hate the guys, I hope they lose, but it does seem to be a trend. Even as Leifeng has been going on for so long, it still seems to be what happens in this cup. But MacSed also just had, I would say, disappointing PvP. This might be the most terrible group in the world from MacSed, until he meets Keen, which unfortunately, but then he'd already be down to 2-0, but it could just be a bad day, like, oh man, I got like all the PvP is my worst matchup right now, like what are the chances that this happen? And he has to try and deal with it somehow. And of course last game it was by trying to cheese, but that didn't work out so well. And unfortunately, once you prove to the guy that you're a cheeser and he scouts it and deals with it, there's a very unlikely chance you're gonna be able to get away with it the second game. The guy obviously is like, it's like you confirmed what your opponent was thinking about you, and you're just out of luck. Otherwise. Stats apparently needs a second. He literally just says no. Because Overgrowth was banned on the wrong map. The other options were Habitation Station and Daybreak. I want to leave the lobby, but no one else is leaving first, and I'm not in control of the lobby making, so I feel really paranoid leaving. Okay, everyone else left it. Whew, phew, we're good. Spasm, I feel like I know a couple of games that almost fit that profile. MacSed, I don't think understood the veto process. I don't know what's happening. Maybe I don't understand it. The way they did it was not very intuitive. Van I. And then the other person should have vetoed twice, but Max had vetoed the same map that Stats did. Oh, I see what happened. Yeah, okay. So the next map's gonna be Newkirk Precinct. Got it. And that is an okay map to go for. And we are ready for game number 2. It all works out. Yay! Well, we saw Newkirk Precinct in the last series, and MacSed did end up losing on it in a fair macro game. He took damage in the early game, but had a faster Nexus, but then just continued to take damage bit by bit, and then tried to do a push while expanding much later, and definitely messed up the push. Because the thing is, you can expand later, but if you're doing other right moves, maybe it doesn't matter, you can make up for it. Unfortunately, MacSed was unable to do the whole making up for it. So it's really just like, I don't want to blame his micro, I don't want to blame his macro, though maybe he's messing up macro too. It is more just like the pace of PvP seems to be kind of off. His decision making seems to be kind of off in this matchup. Let's see what he can do in game number 2. In the bottom right on Newkirk Precinct, he is the red Protoss, MacSed. In the bottom left, as the blue Protoss, he is Stats. Now after this, Stats does play Rush Crazy, which I think will be a decent PvP. As Rush Crazy, he kind of had like, he also made like a questionable choice in the first game. He kind of added everything, you know what I mean? But he still, I thought, looked much better. It was like he was kind of an unrefined PvP player, but his pacing and decision-making was still a lot better. Looks like MacSed's gonna drop out. Maybe he was the one who was causing a bit of lag, I don't know. Because usually when I start lagging, if I do, it's like, it starts like off kind of annoying and then kind of deteriorates over the next 20 minutes. It didn't really ever deteriorate, which is why I was like, is it really me? I don't know, man. Well, that's unfortunate. Of course, MacSed, should he just, just be like a second disconnect and then he comes back online? No big deal, just recover from replay, I guess, if they want to. It's not even a minute in, but oh well. But if it's a case where he can't get back online, then it's going to be super awkward for the group. Well, we're going to have to see what MacSed's case is, what his situation is, because I don't know. Is he in the win? Or, shit, in the win. I just literally saw stats ask if he wins. Is he in the lobby? Was that him? He's a barcode. Yeah, MacSed just dropped out for a second, it looks like, because he's still in the lobby and in StarCraft. Now they're having a bonding moment where Stats made a joke about if he won or not, and he's like, no, it's a joke, and then MacSed's like, I can't win against you anyways because you're too good, and Stats is trying to lift his spirits. I don't know, man. They're like getting some bro on. That actually didn't take too long. Looks like we are just going to start a fresh new game. Like, underneath a minute, the chances of something weird happening is not very high. If it was a ZV something, maybe that's a little bit questionable. Because, maybe they early pulled, maybe they didn't. But I think they're both okay with this option. So, once again, Newkirk Precinct. MacSed's choice. I'm just hoping he appears on the bottom again. So I have to change the overlay. Haha, he does. Once again, in the bottom right is the yellow Protoss. He is MacSed. In the bottom left has the blue Protoss. He is Stats. Well, I kind of did a spiel about what happened in MacSed's last game on Newkirk Precinct before the lag out, so I won't do it again in case that's what triggered it. Knock on wood type deal. But the point was it didn't look quite refined, and I would look forward to the next matchup a lot more. I feel like I'm kind of BMing MacSed a little bit, but I think he would even agree, as he was kind of joking with Stats that he just didn't feel like he could win. Especially if you can't cheese anymore, which at this point, I don't think you can. Maybe you can try and do a different type of cheese, one that isn't proxied, because I think Stats would be looking for a proxy. Maybe you can throw a Dark Shrine, like, secure in your base, but hidden away a little bit. I don't know. I think that no matter what MacSed does, Stats is going to have a little bit of an idea, though, when it comes to, like, scouting the gases, getting your adepts into the mineral line. If he opens up a Stargate and gives an Oracle, then he can get some scouting. There's like a lot of ways for like really good Protoss to scout each other and figure out what's happening. The expansion timing can be off as much as like 15 seconds, and that's even a tell right there. Like stuff like that, right? And it's going to be very difficult for MacSed to actually get something kind of weird in, especially when I feel there's I don't know exactly what to call it. It's like the better player effect, but it's also kind of like the superstar effect, where maybe you're nervous. That's like the most obvious one. But it's more like, since you feel like nothing's going to work, nothing ever does. And for Stats, because you feel like you're gonna win, you're like much more likely to win. Like I'm sure that has like a word for it, because everything has a word for it, even like maybe a German word for it. But I can't think of it right now. The point is, I think he's just gonna be like, he's going to play his game, kind of calm, secure, scout. Don't do anything too greedy because you're not that overconfident, especially in a mirror matchup. And just going to smoothly go into the mid-game. We do have a different opener. So Adepts versus Stalkers. Initially, and then of course that Stargate on the one base. I don't think this will be added to any other gateways. I think this will just be into an expand eventually, but the ideal thing is that Stats doesn't expect so many multi-pronged attacks. The Adepts are not going to be that hard to take care of. The Stalkers are actually like looking for them, as well as any other potential proxies, and they find both of them. They're going to try and target fire the one Adept, and it's already not that great, as of course Stats already has his other 2 units ready to go. This Adept at most is going to get scouting, and all it sees is the Nexus timing. And unfortunately, because they died so damn quick, they also won't be able to distract for that Oracle. So Stats should just be very calmly paying attention to the minimap and his base and be totally ready with a Photon Overcharge. It is that perfect triangle setup of pylons too, so the Oracle really can't find a way in to deal any damage whatsoever. Now, Stats also can't find any damage. You know, MacSed has his own defensive setup, and he really wasn't that far behind on the Nexus. Not sure if Stats saw the timing on the Nexus. Stats, I'm so disappointed. Stats! Maybe just like the clan, the Galaxy, is full of users who have the Diva voice pack, because Innovation also uses the Diva voice pack, and it just makes me so sad. See, it feels like sometimes he does. I know, like, we chested it once and he didn't, but then another time he was. But anyways, Oracle was just, it was figured out. I guess with the Adepts coming through, and then just good reads, good guesswork, even if it was that. I mean, there's not much else that can be done, I suppose. Like, either they're also going to have the same number of ground units, or they're going to have, like, some, like crazy fast Nexus. Anything in between. Whoops, anything in between is probably going to be some type of Oracle opener. Because if it was a Dark Shrine opener, then it would have been a little bit later. Even if the units weren't there, of course the Photon Overcharge could have dealt with it. But the fact that there's no Photon Overcharge had to be used is just like... Stats really doesn't have much to worry about, basically. Because if you use 2 Photon Overcharges and use a 3rd one on like a front attack, and you don't have any, then maybe the Oracle does like the 4 or 5 probes with the damage that at least gives it some reason to feel good about itself. But if you don't ever do anything with the Oracle, it just feels bad. At most, it's going to be Revelation, which is important, but not what you want. Usually, I think the Oracle's like base wanted damage is something like 5 probes, and then Revelations. Twilight Council on the way. I mean, he does have faster Immortals coming out here, and that's like the one benefit. Stats is going to go for a pretty greedy 3rd base, but he does feel so confident in his position in the game after the denial on the Adepts and the denial on the Oracle, that this is just... It is a lot like last game. It's not as harsh as losing your proxy 4th gate, but it is still a harsh opener for MacSed, and Stats is going to just try and take advantage of it. Last time he took the fast 3rd base, he still had enough of an army, especially on the defense, to hold on to MacSed's eventual push. A little fake 3rd was cool, but it wasn't enough, and just did not have enough army supply. If he does go like all in on the Immortals, and then of course all in on the Gateways, then maybe he can do something. We'll have to see. Resident Enclaves is also on the way, and I could definitely see MacSed, yeah, adding on those Gateways and trying to go for that all-in. I don't know if, I don't see it working. Again, Stats will have fairly good production himself, but also a Nexus. The only thing he's going to be a little bit behind on are the Immortals. He's going to be 1 Immortal behind, and maybe there'll be like 5 or 10 seconds where he doesn't have Resident Enclaves either. But can MacSed actually push that timing and push with 1 extra Immortal to win the game? Seems unlikely. That's where Mothership Core, Photon Overcharge, and just Defender's Advantage kind of works in to plays to make up for 1 Immortal. War Prism's on the way now too, and MacSed is just looking for that attack. But Stats is going to be able to scout it with the Stalkers very easily. See it coming through. He is going to do the bring a probe thing again, but you know, it's not even that it didn't work last game. Maybe Stats was fooled into thinking that it was going to be a Nexus expand, but it didn't matter. So even this was going to be the cancel again, go for the attack. Stats, there's no trick here that means Stats has less army because of it. There's no way you can possibly trick him. The only thing that Stats maybe could do is like probe a little too hard, like literally 3 probes up to like 65, 70 probes. But he's not doing that. He's actually stopped at 50. MacSed has stopped his own probe production, by the way. Last time he stopped it at 44. This time 45. And it is going to be that push. This time he might just not cancel the Nexus and hope that he does enough damage that he can actually start producing probes after. He also got a Templar Archive, so he's going to have a couple of Archons, and that's one of the biggest differences for their armies, but Stats army supply is still greater. And he does have a couple of Photon Overcharges. He also has all his production finished up with these gateways turning into warp gates, and I just don't know how Max is really going to push through this army. The Archons only add so much. There's no real reason as to why Stats would shade through offensively when he knows that he is in a very good position. As long as he defends, he will not lose, even if he starts taking probe damage. The pylons might be shot down before they can have out too much, but they do get the Photon Overcharge and the army comes back. MacSed tries to force field off the army, which works, but it's only going to work once. He's out of force fields, and when the force fields are gone, can his army take on Stats? I don't think so. It's now a 20 army supply deficit for MacSed, and he is the one that's going to get sandwiched, cornered, surrounded here, whatever you want to call it, and that is going to be game and 2-0 for Stats' favor. GG. Well, at the very least, MacSed got that whole, like, Alima League feeling where, you know, if you ever want to play in the Alima League or any of our cups, you totally can. And there's that one chance you get to play against, like, Innovation or Bjorn or something. I think that's what MacSed got there, if he's really that big a fan of Stats, to like, tell him in-game. Because you can be a fan of someone and just, like, not have to mention it. You can also be a fan of someone and just, like, not help yourself. And just have to mention, like, yeah, like, you're kind of cool, like, I don't know, like, it's, like, pretty cool meeting you and stuff, like, it's good style, like, whatever. That's everything. Unfortunately, with a 2-0, with two 2-0s, MacSed is kind of already last in the group, which is pretty brutal. But we'll see what he can do to contribute to the dynamics of the group later on. That was only the second series of the day. Going to the third one now should be Rush Crazy versus Stats. They've done it out of the Team Liquid order before, though. No, it is confirmed. Stats versus Rush Crazy. So while they get the vetoes done, I'm going to go to a quick break. As soon as we're in the lobby, I'll get back to you guys. Thanks for watching.